We tend to put God in a box. And what I mean by that is we forget just how big and powerful God really is. We put restrictions on God and what He can do in our lives. When we pray, and we only pray for specific areas of our lives, we want God to help us with those, but we don't want Him to touch anything else. Did you know you may be hurting your own self by that? It's kind of like a domino effect. Everything in our body works together. It all works together to make us who we are. So if we don't let God have every bit of us to fix everything that's wrong, there may be things in us probably are that are wrong that we may not even realize. So if we don't give it to God, He can't fix us. Just Him touching and answering one part of our lives and one prayer that we're giving doesn't mean that our lives are going to change. So many times you hear people say, I have been waiting for years for God to answer my prayer and He's not answering anything. That's because we're not praying correctly. When you pray for God to fix your life, for Him to make something better in your life, you need to give your life to God, because if He fixes your financial situation, but then your love life is not where it needs to be, or your family life is messed up, then there's that just hanging in the looms, just waiting to crash right after your finances if He fixes that. Or if He fixes a job and then you're not managing your money correctly because you didn't give Him your finances. You see what I mean? We can't expect God to fix us if we're not letting Him. So we need to stop trying to put restrictions and power limits on the God who created the universe by speaking it into existence. Do you not think He knows exactly what we need? Exactly what's going to make us happy? I heard Dr. David Jeremiah speaking the other day, and he said, whenever we pray and we're praying for God to show us our plan and our purpose, when we pray and trust God and seek God, He will give us the desires of our heart. And what that means is God knows our heart, even if we don't know that deep down. Like and He used the example, he was afraid before he gave his life to God. He was afraid that God would send him to Africa. And he said, I didn't want to go to Africa. And it's funny because that's how we all think. We're afraid that if we give our lives to God, He's going to make us do something we don't want to do. When in reality, He's going to give us exactly what we want. And we may not even know that's exactly what we want. Because He knows. He made our hearts. He made our souls. He knows us better, way better than we know ourselves. So instead of just giving one piece over to God because you think that you're able to control, I finally realized that we can't just let God control one part and we control the rest. It doesn't work that way. If we want to see our lives change for the better, our lives, and be happy as we can be on earth by having God in our lives and letting Him control every area, that's what you have to do. You can't just give it part of it. It would be the same thing as us with our children. We know that we need to fix each area of our kids' lives when they're little, and they only want us to fix the snack part. Oh, they'll take care of the riding the bicycle part, but we can see if they don't put those knee pads on, they're going to wreck, they're going to get hurt, and then they're going to come cry and wish they'd listened to us. Same thing, except our mistakes and our paths that we take ourselves on lead to way worse consequences if we don't let God guide us. So we need to stop putting restrictions on God, stop putting God's ability in a box, and let Him work. Give Him the universe that He created to do the miracles that are boundless and in abundance in our lives. But you got to give your life to God to see it.